Turning now to your community focus, we are joined once a month here on 12 News at 4 by Attorney General Peter Neronha. Thanks as always for being here.
Kim, great to be here.
There's always a lot to cover with you, so I want to dive right in. On Friday, we learned that 2 East Greenwich volleyball coaches have been terminated from their jobs over allegations of inappropriate behavior. We know that police are investigating, but just today, we got an independent report that shines more light on what some of those alleged inappropriate behaviors were, including allegations of touching students and, text messages, stuff like that. I'm curious if you've read that report and if your office plans to get involved with this investigation at all.
Yeah, so we just learned about these allegations at the end of last week, so I've asked the state police to join us in reviewing them. Of course, we'll coordinate with East Greenwich Police as well, but they're concerning. We'll take a look, and when we're in a position to share more with the public, we'll do that.
I also just wanted to check in on some of the investigations that we've been talking about here on 12 News at 4 previously, so maybe we can do sort of a rapid fire here.
Sure.
Is the Aaron Thomas investigation still ongoing?
It is, and it's moving forward, and again, when we're ready to share what we found with the public, we'll do that.
What about the investigation into DMV Administrator Bud Craddock and his connection to that Cranston property that was, there was a sex for pay operation that was discovered there. I know your office was looking into how much he knew about that.
Sure, yeah, same. Still moving forward, and again, when we're ready to share the results with the public, we'll do that.
What about the Cumberland Wetlands investigation involving Tony Silva?
Yeah, same. I think both of those things, that one and the one involving Mr. Craddock, I think are nearing conclusion, but that's in the same status.
And Eleanor Slater Hospital?
Same, yeah, making good progress there in particular. But still not in a position to share what we found with the public. We're busy, as your questions
Yes, indeed.
show.
Just last week, our Anita Buffoni reported on a new law that allows the early release of certain offenders who were convicted as teenagers. You've appealed the decision to release 3 of those offenders.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, look, I think what's important to know about those cases they are all similar in this way. All of them involved a homicide that had a consecutive sentence for additional conduct in addition to the homicide. The law, in our view, is not very clear as to whether or not when someone's paroled on the murder sentence, the life sentence, whether they go right to the street or they also have to address the consecutive sentence that was part of the original sentencing. We believe that that's a question that needs to be answered. When courts impose those consecutive sentences, if somebody murders somebody and shoots at somebody else, they get a sentence for that additional shooting. We believe that not only does the court, the prosecutor, defense attorney, but most importantly, victims' families have a right to know what that means, and we're trying to get that principle clarified.
I want to ask you about the annual gun crime report that your office recently came out with and provided to the General Assembly. We know each year there's a lot of gun control legislation that's hotly debated up at the State House. So when you look at the data and when you look at that report, do you think to yourself, yes, we need more gun control legislation on the books, or we just need to do a better job enforcing the laws that already exist?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination of doing the job that we're doing enforcing the existing laws. But let's be clear about the changes we've made and we hope to make going forward. Ghost guns had it passed last year. We've had 77 ghost gun prosecutions since. Clearly there was a need for that legislation. It's having an impact. High capacity magazines, legislation pending this year. And the 143 cases that we've charged since September of last year through the end of the year, 143 cases, over 25% had a high capacity magazine. 25%. And those high capacity magazines weren't 0 to 15 rounds, they were 15 and up to as many as 30. That's a real problem on the streets of Providence. It's endangering the lives of police officers and the public alike. That's legislation that will make a difference, and I'm hoping we can get that through this year.
In addition to that legislation, any other bills that you're watching that you think, yes, we need to get that through this year?
Yeah, look, I think open carry of long guns on the streets of Rhode Island is a problem that I think frankly flies below the radar screen of many Rhode Islanders. There's other legislation out there around wage theft and a few other things I'm really would like to see get done this year, but around gun safety, those are the 2 in particular that I think hold the most promise and will have the most impact. The reality is when you're able to put 20 rounds in the air at a time, you're endangering the lives of the public. We see that all over the city of Providence in particular. A lot of rounds in the air. The more rounds you fire, the more odds of somebody being hit.
Some news that your office came out with just yesterday, a $15 million settlement with 3 major gas companies over pollution to Rhode Island's soil and groundwater by something called MTBE, which is a gasoline additive. Where is this money going to go?
It's going to go to doing exactly what it should do, which is to clean up contaminated sites around the state of Rhode Island. If you drive by a gas station and it's closed and there's a fencing around it and they're digging in there, they're digging up tanks that are leaking. The problem with those tanks, that when they leak with this additive, It causes some significant health problems. So this money is going to be used to remedy those problems around sites, INSAT sites around the state.
Attorney General Peter Neronha, that is all the time that we have. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And looking ahead to tomorrow, when Senator Cynthia Mendes will join us to talk about her campaign to be Rhode Island's next lieutenant governor. That's coming up tomorrow right here on 12 News at 4 in your Community Focus.